Hey, I'm Michael Janda. I'm here with Harry, who is Marketing Harry from Bulgaria, Instagram sensation, 100,000 followers in 10 months. That was almost the exact same growth trajectory that I had in my Instagram growth. So I'm excited to chat with Harry about Instagram growth tactics, social media growth tactics. He gave me the list of things he was going to share, and it was a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't know anything about. So I'm excited to pick his brain, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot out of this video. Harry, how are you doing?
Thank you so much for the great introduction. I'm doing phenomenal.
Good. And you're in Bulgaria, we just learned. We
Correct.
meaning me and my mini-me bobblehead version of me. We just learned that you're in Bulgaria, and your name normally is not Harry. What is it?
Yeah, my full name is Hrabran, which literally translates into bravery in my native language.
Love that.
And that's where my whole social media presence and my whole brand core message actually come from as well.
So good. I love that. Bravery. What a great first name. And then your last name is what? Just
Bankov.
Because I like to hear you say it. Bankov?
Yeah, Bankov. And it comes from bank. So people usually think I do have a lot of money.
Oh, that's what they think. Are they correct about that or no? Probably not as much as you would like.
We always want more. This is a concept called Hedonic Treadmill. It is the same concept with followers. When we get 10,000 followers, we always want 100,000 followers. And the same concept repeats. The same is with money. But honestly, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's so true. You know, when I first started growing on Instagram, I thought, okay, someday I'm going to have 30,000 followers. And then I'll be like, whoa, I made it. And then it was like 3 months later, I had 30,000 followers. And then you start looking at, 50,000 followers.
50,000,
what about 75,000? Oh, what about 100,000? 100,000 is a nice milestone. I'm sure that when you hit there, like I did, I felt like, okay, I climbed a certain mountain here with the 100,000.
I definitely think so as well, especially when you take a look at the statistics of where most Instagram accounts, business accounts, are situated in, and especially when you look around at your niche as well. So in terms of growth, 100,000 on Instagram is a great number. Now, what matters even more is, are these 100,000 followers really the type of audience who are engaged with you, or are they engaged in the content which you are sharing at the moment? Yeah. And this is something which a lot of creators struggle with.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Tom and I in our BizBuds podcast talked about it as the true fan concept, which was originally Kevin Kelly in Wired Magazine kind of launched this true fan idea. And it was that same kind of mindset too. It's not the vanity metric of, 100,000 followers. That doesn't mean nearly as much as the concentrated quantity of people who actually love you, love your content, will monetize for you if you decide to monetize your audience. There's a certain core group that is the most valuable of that 100,000. And I know that I have a ton of followers who aren't actively engaged in my content. They followed because I have a big audience or whatever. They felt like they should follow me. But I know who this core group is of 1 or 2% of my audience that is the true fan people, the people who keep showing up. They show up in my DMs, they show up in my comments. And those are the ones that you really, really want to nurture and build that community around.
I agree. I also think that there is another perspective on the things, which is more focusing on those ghost followers or workers, people who might not even like your comment, let alone content, let alone engage with it in terms of leaving comments, etc. But they are seeing it and they are paying respects in their minds. And to be honest, I'm sure that you have noticed this with your book and courses. If you try to monetize that through Instagram, you will see that 8% of the people who buy it are actually those ghost followers. At least this has been the case for the people who I have had contact with. But we shouldn't underestimate the power of your core community. I know Tom is focusing a lot on this recently, especially in his in his Instagram and the upcoming book that he is writing. But your core community, the people who are there to support you whenever you share content that is going to be benefiting them, but also whenever you're trying to share something which is more personal or which is more in line with who you are as an individual, these are the people who are going to be pushing you forward. These are the type of people who are going to be spreading your message for you.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so let me give you an example of that in my life. So last summer, I launched my big freelance course. And then 6 months later, even now, every week or so, I get somebody who reaches out and says, oh, hey, Mike, I've been following you for 1.5 years and I bought your course last summer and it's so great and it changed my business. And I just wanted to send you a message and say thanks for all the content, blah, blah, blah. And this is somebody who I never have heard of ever before in my life. They were, like you said, Harry, one of those ghost followers that is following along, but they just never engaged with me. And I think you got to be careful. And I love what you just said, that you got to be careful not to just discount this mass of people that you're not sure who they are. They're not your core audience, as you know, but there's somebody that's been following along and super engaged. They just haven't made that connection with you yet. And certainly you have a lot of those people for sure.
Yeah. And there are people who are going to the extremes, deleting every single person who they don't see as the target audience. Yeah. And I've seen accounts going from 50,000 followers to less than 10,000. And I've seen accounts who just hit 10,000 followers, deleting their followers until they go to that perfect, pure following, which in my perspective is a huge mistake, because there are only a few factors that you can look at when trying to understand if these followers are real or fake. And there definitely are a lot of fake followers. There are bot followers. There might be some kind of followers who have reached your page, for example, trading bot followers. These are quite normal. But you shouldn't try to discriminate and try to create the so-called pure following, because every single person inside of your community has a purpose. They don't have to buy from you, but they might help spread your message. They might engage with your content, leaving a comment, for example, and that can help your content reach the people who are going to help you monetize. So in my perspective, your audience can be broken down into a couple of segments, each with specific purpose. One might be for attention, other might be for social proof, third might be for authority, fourth might be for monetization. And with everything in life, everything which comes down to a funnel, and this is my whole approach to Instagram as well. And we can discuss this more in depth when we reach the heat map section of this discussion. But it's completely normal to have, let's say, 100,000 followers on Instagram, and then just a few percentages of these monetized. And that shouldn't bother you as a creator.
Yeah. The monetization side, well, I have a couple comments on what you were just talking about. The first thing, let me talk about ghost followers. People were saying, this was like a year ago, they were like, oh, your engagement rate is low because you have too many bot followers and you need to use this tool to purge your account of bot followers. And so I signed up for some tool and I clicked to have it go and do an analysis of my followers and find the bot followers. And it was like, it just churned for hours because I had over 100,000 followers. So it's just churning. And it never resulted in any data for me. So I was like, forget this. I can't use some algorithm to determine my bot followers. And then they said, you got to go and look through your followers, see the ones that are real and delete the ones that are not. And so I started going down my followers, looking for like weird names and things that didn't seem like real people. And I would click on them and it would say so-and-so name, and they'd have one post and it would say that they're a graphic designer. And I would say, okay, well, I can't delete that person because what if they're a real account and they just don't use Instagram very much for their own posting? So I didn't delete, I deleted maybe a couple of those, but I couldn't tell who was a bot follower and who was not. And I was too afraid to just start purging people for the reason that you were talking about. I didn't want to purge somebody just because they hadn't interacted with me. So what I did do is I just let them stay. and I let the Instagram police go and do their bot purges that happen every once in a while. And I see it when it happens because I'll lose like 800 followers in a week or something. And I'm like, oh, it must have been a bot purge because my follower count went down for a batch of time. I just let Instagram take care of it because they don't want all of that mess in their user base either. So I let Instagram purge those people, and I don't try and do it myself. Have you tried purging bot followers and stuff? Do you do that in your account?
Yeah. So in terms of purging followers, I have a really strict criteria. I don't like blocking people except if they are spammers. So G's for sure. And the criteria that I'm looking at is usually how many accounts they're following. If they're following 5,000 accounts, obviously it will be super hard for me to rank on their feed either way.
Yeah.
And in most cases, these people are looking for follow-on-follow methodologies. So these are the only type of people and accounts that I purge. Having said that, if you think about the algorithm for a second, one of the biggest reasons people purge followers is because their engagement rate is low. And they think that they have 10,000 bot followers and these people are consuming their content, not allowing their content to reach anybody else. But if you think about this logically, if someone is a fake account, if someone is an inactive account, if someone is a bot account, Instagram isn't going to show your content to them either way, because these people might not even be on Instagram. These people might not even walk in their accounts in Instagram. And if they're not seeing your content regularly, Instagram won't promote it to them. So even from that perspective, it just sounds ludicrous to me. I do remove certain followers, but as mentioned, I try to remove these followers which I'm 100% sure are utilizing follow for follow, or they are going to be a bot, a spam, either way, people who are going to be polluting my comment sections. But other than that, I'm quite free. Anyone who likes can come and follow me. And that's the right approach in my perspective.
Yeah, in my perspective too. That's what I do, and I don't worry about the bot followers too much. And honestly, I think that it's a small percentage of the total audience that are some bot followers. And the follow people, man, that starts getting crazy when you get over 100,000 followers. You look at your account. If you look at it on a daily basis, you'll have 400 new followers and 300 unfollows. And then you have a net gain of 100 followers that day. That's what you start seeing. And when your account is bigger, it's just this mass quantity of people that are hoping that you follow them because they think that if you follow them back, the algorithm is going to think that their account is valuable because your account is big and you're following them. And so they follow you, hoping you follow them. When you don't follow them back in 5 hours, then they unfollow you. And man, that is a churn. So many people just buying into the follow-unfollow thing. I can't stand that.
Honestly, I've accepted that. This has been how Instagram works since its inception. And because I've been playing around with Instagram pages for a long time, I knew this even when I started creating my team pages 5 years ago. So this is something which you just have to accept. And in terms of a follower, in terms of a creator, I'm focusing on the followers who come here to stay. And on a weekly basis, the minimum amount of unfollows that I get is 2,000. And I actually calculated how many followers I've lost, and I probably lost more than 100,000 followers during my time. During my whole 12-month career thus far. So that's the reality of Instagram. We cannot change it. We can accept it and choose to focus on the type of person who wants to follow us.
Well, I lose more followers every day than I gain in total numbers. So like I said, an average day for me is 300 new followers and then 200 unfollows and a net gain of somewhere between 50 and 100 new followers. That's kind of a normal day for me when I'm posting regularly and being consistent. If I'm not posting, and this is something that I've noticed too, and just kudos to those of you that are staying consistent, and I was super consistent for a long, long time, but now I see that if I'm not posting, I'm losing net followers. And at some point you just have to stop playing the game, which was where I was about 6 months ago. I was like, okay, I cannot for my own sanity, just keep posting 5 carousels a week, trying to keep my audience engaged and growing. It's just the hamster wheel of that is too crazy. So at some point you just have to let it go and realize, okay, I've got a core audience. I'm going to get new core audience that finds my account, and now they have a year and a half worth of content that they can go and look back on. And I'm not so worried about finding new audience as I am just nurturing the core audience
existing
that I still have. Yeah. And that's where I am. And if you don't feel that way, then there are ways that you can keep consistent. You can start having collaboration content where you're posting other people's content on your feed. I've seen some creators start doing that where they have guest posts on their page. Have you ever done guest posts like that?
Oh, I've done quite a bit. I usually try to do guest posts and collaborations with people who match or fill some gaps in my knowledge. For example, I'm not a graphic designer. A lot of people think I am, but I'm not. And if there is an opportunity for someone from that field to come and educate my audience, because I know there is an overlap, people who are into social media marketing and people who are designing, I definitely take that opportunity. Yeah. I recently did a quite successful collaboration, and it turned out to be one of my most successful posts. But you need to find the right chemistry between you as a host and your guests, because there is no point in bringing in guests and bringing in collaborators if it doesn't serve your end goal and doesn't serve your audience. And for that matter, I'm quite picky with who I choose to collaborate with. Yeah, that's why I'm super excited to be on this call with you, because I see a lot of overlapping in our audiences, and I definitely believe that this can be helpful for both of us. So unless it's a win-win situation, I don't take any guest posts or collaborators.
Yeah, I do a lot of video collaborations with people. I don't do the guest post thing where I have somebody else's content posted to my feed, but I like collaborations like this just because it breaks up the normal Mike Janda show. You know, I like bringing new people in so that there's fresh energy and fresh ideas and fresh blood in the stream of Mike Janda content. So I like it for that reason, and but I haven't done the collaboration or guest post style thing. I think kind of my mindset is I still have so much to share that I haven't shared, that when I run out of ideas, then maybe I'll start going and looking to bring in some new ideas from other people as far as posts are concerned. All right, well, let's dig into a couple of these things that we actually planned to talk about now that we're like 15 minutes into this call. Let's talk about some of these things. The first one, you put on the list, understanding growth, the conversion and traffic. And I guess we've touched on that a lot here. What were the talking points that you had in mind for understanding growth, conversion, and traffic?
In terms of growth on any social media platform, I try to break it down into 2 elements. Quite simple. If you're not growing on social media, A, you don't have enough traffic coming to your social media pages. In case of Instagram, that's profile visits. Or B, you're not converting that traffic which you're getting, those profile visits, into new followers as effectively as you can. Yeah. And if you master both elements of this sphere, you end up with a profile which is growing exponentially. Okay. And both elements are just as important, because one of it is the fuel and the other can be the car. So if you put in fuel in a broken car with whose engine isn't working, you won't get far. So it has to be optimized both in the traffic aspect as well as in the conversion aspect.
Okay. So what are some of your tips for traffic, generating the traffic to your page? What do you break that down into a handful of little action points for the people who are chiming in on this video?
So generating traffic can be one of the most fun and creative things that you can be doing on Instagram. And just as with investing, the first thing that you need to understand is diversification is key. Mm-hmm. So you don't want all of your traffic to be coming from one place. A quick example of that, if you have a huge YouTube channel, which can fuel your Instagram page, it is good to cross-platform promote it but you shouldn't rely only on your YouTube traffic to grow your Instagram. You need to put in the work on your Instagram as well in order to keep people coming in, keep new faces coming in, because Instagram can be looked as one bucket, and you fill it constantly with water, but there is a hole at the end of it, and that signifies water coming out. So new water is new followers, and the old water are the people who unfollow you. So you have to keep the traffic up, you have to keep the water coming from the top in order to keep your bucket full. And for that reason, some of the other practical tools that you can utilize in order to generate traffic on Instagram can be a good engagement strategy that is key for accounts which are under 10,000. Making sure
when you're saying, okay, so before you jump in, engagement strategy, when you say engagement strategy, what are you referring to? Yeah.
So I look at engagement on social media platforms as giving the kind of engagement you'd like to receive. And I'm going to go even deeper on that. If you want comments on your post, go on ahead and leave comments on other posts. If you want more likes, go ahead and leave more likes. Social media is called social for a reason. And if you look at it the right way, you can even trigger something which is called the reciprocity principle. So this is deeply engraved in us as humans. When I scratch your back, you're going to be scratching my back. And this is the fundamental principle behind engagement. So if you'd like to grow your social media presence in the beginning, you need to make sure that you are engaging with other people, you're building connections with other people. And to be honest, this is one of the best ways to use social media. And I have friends who I made under 100 followers on Instagram. So when I had 50 or 60 followers on my Instagram page 12 months ago, I made some connections which are still with me even now, 12 months later. And the feeling is phenomenal.
It is. It's so great. And I have that too. I have people that I DM with every single day, it seems like, and they have like 200 followers. They're just like super hyper engaged with me. I have this huge audience. They have a small audience, but I love the engagement. So I'm content to do that with anybody who wants to behave that way with me, because I like it, they like it, and it is what social media is all about. And I value those people so highly in my spectrum of social media growth and conversion and tactics and all that stuff. I value those people that are just my friends now as a result of what started with comments on my posts, turned into some DMs, turned into voice messaging each other, turned into video messaging each other. It's just so great. So I think people get caught up sometimes in the growth for growth's sake. And 100,000 followers does you nothing if you don't get 1,000 new friends out of it. Who cares about 100,000 followers when you could have 1,000 new real connections? And I think you got to keep perspective on that value of that engagement. So I like what you shared there. I also like, and just to reiterate what you said, you get what you give. There's this song, I don't remember who did it, but you get what you give. If you want comments, then go comment on people's stuff. If you want likes, go like people's stuff. If you want followers, go follow some people. If you want people to share your content in their stories, go share people's content in their stories. There's this back-scratching, karma-related something that happens in social media that you get what you give. And so don't be afraid to go and start doing that. I have people that have messaged me and they say, I'm not growing. And I'm like, well, are you engaging with people? Are you commenting on their posts? Are you DMing people? Are you thanking the people who commented on your post in a little DM saying, thanks so much for commenting because it means so much to you because you got 2 comments? Did you go and DM those people and start a deeper relationship with them and express your gratitude to them? If you're not doing that for the small numbers, there's no way you're going to grow to the bigger numbers.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love to give this example to some of my students. There has been a creator on Instagram. His name has been Michael. And because he was so engaged in the community of Chris Do, he was leaving comments, and he was leaving one of the first comments on his post because Chris Do obviously doesn't have time to read every single comment he has. But because he was engaging with Chris Do regularly, then he had the opportunity to make an ask. And his ask was to go on an Instagram live with Chris Do. And Michael at the time had a small following. I believe it was around 10,000 followers. But he was able to leverage the fact that he was building a deeper relationship with someone as big as Chris Do in order to take that opportunity and deepen their relationship even further. So this is the epitome of what engagement and what giving and being social on social media can result in.
Yeah. It's a great example. I have people that have done that with me. They've become people who I consider good friends of mine. And I don't care about the audience size. I like that engagement with people just for the engagement of new people in my life. It's so valuable to me. So that's a great example. All right, so I cut you off after you said engagement when we were talking about how do we generate traffic to our page. You started talking about engagement, then you were going to launch into point number 2 on that list. Do you remember what it was now that we've talked for 10 minutes on something else?
Yeah, of course. I'm actually writing a book on this topic, so I have this in my mind already ready to go. So SFI list, something which we are going to be discussing further down the road. Curation pages are another great source of traffic. Collaborations, something that we have discussed. So creating a guest post for Chris Do can result in a ton of profile visits. And I've actually done a case study on this, how one collaboration with Chris Do resulted in nearly 30,000 followers for the guest. Ads, obviously, this is the paid methods. You can also launch into cross-platform promotion, something that we discussed earlier. And then there are things that are reliant on your content. Hashtags, explore page, and utilizing formats which are being suggested by Instagram, such as Reels, such as the 4-room lives, etc. And the voice rooms, which are coming to Instagram soon as well. So there are a total of probably 8 to 9 reliant sources of traffic on Instagram. You just have to find them and be creative. Diversify your traffic source strategy, because you never know how social media is going to be changing and you cannot predict that. The only thing that you can rely on is your efforts. So even right now, I'm spending time engaging. Even right now, I'm spending time finding collaborators. Even right now, I'm doing cross-platform promotion. So these are all the things that you need to be doing, not only in order to reach 100,000 followers, but in order to go beyond that as well. In order to, if you want to grow, you need to be doing the things that have worked for someone else, and you need to be consistent, not being satisfied, let's say, with 10,000. But if your goal is to grow even further, doing the things that got you to those 10,000 followers in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that you talked about was the diversifying the content types. Well, you glossed over it a little bit. You mentioned the different types of content on Instagram, and you have carousels, you have reels, you have Instagram, IGTV, you have single image posts, you have stories, you have all these different types of content. You have video, 30-second or less video or 60-second or less video that you can just stick into your feed. I experimented with all of them. And this was something that I did in the early days. We knew when carousels started taking off that carousels were driving a lot of growth for people. Yeah. Instagram was like, whoa, what's this? And started just feeding carousels into the suggested content of people like your audience. And you were growing from that. Something happened about maybe 6 or 8 months ago. This right now is March of 2021. Something happened 6 or 8 months ago where all of a sudden carousels didn't quite have the reach that they used to. Yeah. They started to drop in reach. They started to drop in engagement. And it wasn't just my carousels, because my carousels, if anything, they were better than the ones I was doing a year before that were getting higher reach and engagement. It was algorithm based because Reels came out, and then Instagram started pushing Reels a bit more. And so one of the things that you don't know is what the Instagram algorithm is going to do. You don't know what it's going to promote. You don't know what it's going to push. I've had content where I post it and I think, oh my gosh, this is the most valuable thing I've ever made. And then it's like a dud in engagement and traffic. And then I have stuff that I'm like, well, I'm not even sure if I should post this. And I click post and it just takes off and blows up. And so that's after I got hundreds of posts, and I've been part of this Instagram design community growth from the very, very first day that it happened. And
you still cannot predict them. Yeah,
I can't predict it. You can't predict it.
So the only thing that you can predict, the only thing that you can predict is that everything is unpredictable. And the fact that you realize this enables you to then think about the deeper level of this. And in my mind, this is Instagram is doing only the things that Instagram is going to be winning from.
Yeah.
Meaning Instagram is pushing Reels because it wants more market share from TikTok. Yeah. So it's not pushing out Reels because it wants to help their creators. They want something out of it. And I've synthesized this to the maxima, which is help Instagram win, and you will win as well. Yeah. So you need to identify the three core elements which Instagram is wanting, which is bring new users to a platform, retain new users, and monetize all users. Yeah. So if you help Instagram on these 3 pointers, obviously Instagram is going to be promoting you. The same happened with carousels. The same is happening right now with Reels. The same will happen when audio rooms come out. Yeah. So the only thing that you can predict is that social media is unpredictable, and you have to evolve, you have to change, and you have to stay at the fundamental level. Everything else is going to be changing. Carousels 1 year from now can be the worst type of post on Instagram.
Yep.
But the fundamentals that you need to help Instagram win will still be there, and you will have to adapt to that.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things that I have seen lately is I keep getting pushed by Instagram to sign up to monetize my IGTV. Yeah. I get this, hey, monetize, click here, sign up, blah, 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 put in your bank account, and we're going to start dropping money into your account. And, there's no question that moving forward, Instagram is going to be pushing IGTV video, because that is the first time that Instagram itself is trying to monetize its user base through advertising. It hasn't happened yet, and it's going to happen now with IGTV. So I'd suspect that videos like this that we're doing right now are going to be great little videos inside of IGTV that Instagram can monetize, and you as a creator can monetize. So you and Instagram are aligned in the same objective. And if I'm producing IGTV, which is good for me and good for my audience, and it will monetize for me, Instagram's going to promote it because it will monetize for them too. And it will keep people on the platform. So I think it's an example of one of the waves that's coming that you kind of alluded to there. These audio rooms, which is a Clubhouse competitor, again, another type of content. So the rule for me has always been experiment with content types. Half the content I make is just for my own enjoyment anyway. I make it because for me, it's like, oh, this was funny. It was funny for me, and it was fun to make, and so I'll push it out to my audience. I don't care necessarily whether I get 800 likes on it or 8,000 likes on it. If I wanted 8,000 likes, I'd just be going and making freaking color theory posts all the time and carousels. And that would be giving me tons of likes. I just put one out every other day. And because there's certain types of content that you know you can, they're going to perform high. And I've never been a fan of that. I've been a fan of, all right, what would be fun for me? What can I do to educate my audience? What can I do to make it fun for my audience? And that's the type of content I'm going to make, not just crunching out content for content's sake, trying to maximize the algorithm. Ugh, I hate the rat race of that.
I agree 100%. Several months ago, I did a post on the topic called "Why You Should Stop Doing Bad Content." 3 months ago, I did a post, "Stop Doing These Types of Content," which was featuring listicles, etc., something which everyone can find on the internet, and it's not bringing your unique voice, personality, etc. So it's not deepening your relationship with your audience. Having said that, I do believe that you need to have, especially if growing your social media presence is a goal of yours, you need to have a balanced approach. And what I have come to the realization of is I create all of the content. The fundamental is I need to enjoy what I'm doing. So right now, because Reels just got released in my country, I'm super stoked about utilizing them in a different way, not just pointing, not just dancing, but in a valuable way. And I'm having tons of fun of that. But I'm still creating content which I know my audience will be enjoying as well. So you need to find the balance between content which you know will perform and is algorithmic based, and content which is for your sake alone. And it might be sharing more about your backstory. It might be sharing more about your hobby. It might be sharing something which will deepen the relationship with your community. So I break my content types into growth and community based. And usually what happens is in the beginning, when you're still growing under 10,000 followers, you need 80% of your efforts to go into growth and 20 into community. And with time, when you grow more, when the algorithm starts to know you even more, then you can afford shifting that balance. So it's basically the Pareto principle, 80-20, and then breaking it down and reversing it when growth isn't a priority anymore.
That's so I think that this is breakdown.
Thank you.
Yeah. I love that because I did it and I didn't necessarily think it that way, but I was focused on growth when I was initially growing my channel. It was about, okay, I got to get consistent. Carousels are taking off. I'm going to create carousels and I'm going to get growth. And I built this audience, but now it is community nurturing. Most of my content that I post is community nurturing. And I've actually transitioned to a big push to my YouTube channel.
Yeah, I noticed.
Yeah, because it's more fun for me. I love doing video content and I love teaching, and I've gotten comfortable talking into the black hole of my camera lens. So I enjoy that type of content and it's been fun. So I've decided, okay, I'm going to transition to more video-based content, but that's not growth-based content because I don't grow at all on my Instagram when I'm posting 3-minute snippets of an hour-long video that's on my YouTube channel. But I have a core audience on my Instagram that it nurtures. I think you called it nurturing content, where you're nurturing that existing audience. The people who the people who've already bought in to my content, what I want to share, and they have become a true fan or a believer of the Mike Janda paradigms of the world. That batch of people will watch those videos, but a lot of people won't because they're not in that nurture mode. And you don't grow from nurture mode, but you build a deeper connection with your audience through nurture mode. And the deeper connection has to have as much value or more than the growth phase. Yeah,
I do agree, because at the end of the day, you have to come from your goals. Is it you want followers for the sake of followers? If that's the case, why are you trying to build a personal brand? You can grow on Instagram in 1 million other ways, which are going to be way faster. And if you are seeking only followers, are going to be way more effective. For example, you can create a motivational team page without even showing your face. Reiterate on what is already other and successful, recreate viral posts, and you are going to be growing like crazy. But is that truly your purpose? So for me, it comes down to understanding your why and being super, super clear on that. That's why I created the challenge, the why behind the gram, in which I challenged my audience to get to their purpose, put it in the center of their Instagram, and then try to communicate it clearly. And there were a ton of entries. More than 250 posts were made in the one specific day that the challenge was held. And I saw different perspectives from people who are doing this for the money, which obviously is a huge part for why most people create personal brands. People who are doing it for the followers, people who are doing it for the impact, people who are doing it because they love it. And everyone has different perspective. Everyone has different goals, but you need to be clear on that in order to understand what is the best thing for you to do on social media.
Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you a question then. What is your why on your social media push?
That's a great question. So it comes down from my backstory. I've been in the social media marketing game for 8 years. And considering that I'm 21, I started when I was 13. So I started dabbling with my first team pages, understanding how algorithms work and whatnot when I was 13. Then at 15 or so, I began internships at different digital marketing agencies, a different co-working space, because I knew digital nomads were residing there, and understanding more about this digital marketing world. And when I was 17, I actually created my agency. So in the past 3 years, from 17 to 20, I actually scaled that agency. I worked with clients such as UNICEF, FEMA, Cambridge Coaching, and this really gave me the confidence and the needed boost to share my knowledge. But my true passion ever since I was in school and college was teaching others. That truly made me feel alive, made me feel wholesome. And especially after one unfortunate trip to the hospital in which I was hospitalized because I was overworking, I came to the realization that just chasing money won't bring me happiness. And actually, a book of mine about Ikigai is right here. So this book, I read it when I was 17. I reread it recently as well. And it just let me know even further that my purpose, my goal is to actually share what I have learned and what I continue learning, because that is the most important thing for me. That is the thing that I believe will leave my mark on the world. While just blindly chasing money will, yes, I can afford cool gadgets. I can afford a Tesla. I can afford living in the home that I've always wanted and whatnot. But these things, especially if you're earning them through ways which you hate, you're going to start hating them as well. So at one point, I started hating my agency as well. I started hating my clients because I was doing this and I was breaking my body and my mental state for them because I had to, not because I wanted to. And ever since that, I started sharing my knowledge, ever since I started my personal brand on Instagram, LinkedIn, and now even on YouTube, I've realized that I will be sharing content even if no one paid me. And the majority of my audience doesn't pay me. I have a dozen of coaching clients. I have a dozen of clients which come at the top of the funnel to my agency as well. But other than that, no one directly pays for my content. But I love the process so much that I would create content even if I wasn't making any money. And this was the mentality that I actually started with in the beginning as well. I had a successful business already going on, so I could afford not to monetize. I could afford sharing everything that I know without any reserve because I'm not afraid of someone taking my place.
Yeah, I love that. So much overlap in my why, and I'll share mine with you here. So my why,
please do,
and you'll see some overlap in this. My why, I did the agency grind for so many years. It was 15 years. 13 years into it, I sold my agency, and then I stayed at the agency I sold to for a couple of years. And in that span of time, I really started to understand my ikigai, or my hedgehog concept of who I really was and what I really loved. And teaching, mentoring, coaching was a big part of that. Content creation was a big part of that. I wrote my first book while I was running my agency. My book, Burn Your Portfolio, came out in 2013. I sold my agency in 2015. So it was something that was kind of inside of me. I didn't realize till I had untethered myself from my agency completely after selling it, that was what I really loved the most. I loved the collaboration with the team, helping Sally get from this level in her career to this level in her career. I loved that. And so after I left my agency, I was fortunate where I didn't need to monetize my audience. I had a lot of investments and money coming in from a lot of different places, and I didn't need to monetize a social media audience. I didn't even need to make a social media thing. I didn't need to write any more books. I didn't need to do any of that. I just started doing it because I loved it. And I loved leveling up other people. I got so much enjoyment out of that. And I got so much enjoyment out of creating the content just because it's fun for me to create. And like I said earlier, half my content is like self-gratification content. I love making it. It's fun for me. Here you go, world. If you like it, great. If you don't, that's fine too. I liked it and it was fun for me. That's been my why. And deeper than that, I think one of the things that really drives me are relationships. I've always been relationship focused, especially in my agency years when I started to understand the power of relationships in business. And one of my goals or my whys now is I kind of want to have a friend in every major city in the world, so that if I'm ever traveling to who knows where, I can post something on my social media saying, hey, I'm going to be in Stockholm. Anybody want to get lunch or go tour the city with me? And I want to have people who, or at least a person who will actually show up and want to spend time with me. That's a big driver for me. It's just building friendships with people all over the world. And that's been something so valuable to me in this Instagram push, this community that I've built. I feel like I have friends almost everywhere in the world. I feel like I have friends that would be excited if I showed up to go and spend time with them. So that's a big driver for me and a big why I do any of this.
That's a great driver. And to be honest, because I'm so into traveling, I love experiencing different cultures. I don't like tourism. I like traveling and truly getting to know the people on the other side of the world, what drives them, what makes them happy. And there are great books on the topic. One of them is Geography of Happiness. So the
Geography of Happiness.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And the same author actually has a couple of other books about wisdom, about genius, and religion. And his whole concept is going around the world, experiencing different cultures and what make them happy, what make them smart, what make them driven in terms of religion. And you can truly get to know people from different cultures and how they perceive the world, because that will enrich your own worldview as well. So I truly resonated with what you said is one of your goals for your social media presence. And the next time that I'm traveling, I hope that the pandemic is over soon. I definitely will be utilizing this method.
Yeah, I love it. I got my vaccination yesterday, by the way. Last night I got my
Congratulations.
first vaccine. It's a little tender today, but I didn't get sick from it. So I'm excited for this pandemic to be over for sure. Okay, well, we've been chatting and we didn't even get through topic number 1. So there are a couple that I want to talk about and pick your brain on because you put these on here.
Yeah.
The first one was conversion optimization with heat map. Now, I understand heat mapping from a website design UX research standpoint and conversion optimization there. I didn't even know this was a thing in social media. So explain to me the heat map opportunity in social media that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So this comes down to this concept, which I created, comes down to play when you break down social media into traffic and to conversions. So traffic, we touched a little bit upon that. Now, in terms of conversions, in terms of turning profile visitors into followers, you need to understand what makes people tick. And this is where heat maps come into play. So the same concept, which is utilized in UX and website creation and optimization, I have taken it because my background is in computer science and applied it to Instagram pages and social media profiles in general. Mm-hmm. So my whole methodology is gather bulk data about how people consume social media profiles, which elements are the most important ones, where people stop, and then reverse engineer it in order to optimize my own social media presence. And from that, I have reached to several interesting conclusions. For example, the most important elements on your Instagram page are actually the headline, handle, and profile picture. The next most important element is actually the first post, which is on the left of your feed, and your first highlight. So these are some of the most important elements on your whole Instagram page. So I've done testing on my account. I've done testing on other accounts, which I have access to from my agency. And there are really interesting conclusions. So for example, one of the tests included, I've placed different call to actions in the different highlights. So highlight number 1 has one call to action. Highlight number 2 has a second call to actions. And they were all super simple. They were all related to clicking links. So based on that, based on my data, based on the data of my colleagues and my clients, I've been able to reverse engineer it and actually reach to a conclusion that no matter where you place your call to action, if you want the most conversions, it should be in the first place of your highlight. Other than that, it drops significantly later on. And this isn't surprising if you think from it from a UX standpoint, but applying this to your Instagram profile can lead to huge revelations in how you see your Instagram page and how you optimize it for the most conversions. Because conversions are super underestimated. Quick example, if you generate 100 profile visits on your profile each week, and if you have 10% conversion rate, you will gain 10 followers. If you have 20% conversion rate, you will gain 20 followers. If you have 50% conversion rate, you will have 50 followers. So that's the difference between 10 followers and 50 followers. And it might seem insignificant in 1 week, but when you think that there are 52 weeks in a year, so gaining 40 followers every single week as an added bonus and multiplying that by 52 weeks makes a world of a difference in terms of your social media presence. So my conversion rate is usually between 40 and 45%. But most of my students, when they get into coaching with me, they start with 10 to 15%. So I usually generate upwards of 15,000 followers each week. So 10 to 15, that's my average. Good weeks, 20, bad weeks, 10. So let's say I generate 10,000 10,000 profile visits each week. My students will generate 1,000 followers if they have 10% conversion rate. I, on the other hand, will generate 4,000 followers. So in 4 weeks, I will generate 16,000 followers and they will generate 4,000 followers. And that's in 1 month. You can multiply that by 12 months. You can multiply that by several years, and the difference would be significant. So heat mapping, understanding how the flow of your Instagram page goes, understanding which are the most important elements, understanding what makes users want to follow you is super important. And heat mapping is just one of the tools that I utilize in order to optimize in terms of conversions.
That's super interesting. So I never did the analysis like that. I never broke it down to the statistical perception of what is the data and how do I adapt to the data. I never did that. I took, and consequently my account, maybe it didn't grow as fast as it could have had I taken that approach. I went with the approach of a little more organic marketing 101 approach of know your audience, understand their pain points, and then solve their pain points. So that was my approach. It was just, I got to know who I'm talking to. I got to know what their problems are. And then I'm going to give them content that is valuable to help them solve their problems. And I just went all in on that mindset and just started sharing and sharing and sharing and let growth become the byproduct of that, not the algorithmic metric-based perception like you were talking about, which I think is super valuable and super interesting. But it doesn't have to be that way for everybody. You can just say, you know what? I'm just going to know who I'm talking to, and I'm going to talk to them like they're my friend, and that's how I'm going to approach it. And growth will be what happens as a byproduct of it. I think it's probably the safe place for most people is probably somewhere in between of just understand your audience, make good content, and you know what? Take Harry's advice on what are the key important things, your profile picture, your first highlight, your first post in the top left, your conversion message in your description. Those kinds of things are valuable. There's no question. So I think maybe somewhere in between the extremes on both sides. And I know you've been that way in yours. You take that metric-based approach, but you're also have humanity behind your content. You've commented on a lot of my posts. You've DM'd with me. We've interacted. You take the same approach that I have with content, but you add that component of metric analysis.
Sorry to break you up. I definitely think that one without the other is impossible. So the fundamentals, if you let go of the fundamentals, you cannot only realize opportunity and you cannot only grow using optimization. Optimization comes when you already have a foundation. So you optimize it and you grow even further. So the fundamentals definitely should be in place if you're going to these more advanced methodologies such as heat mapping, conversion optimization, and making sure everything is perfect. And perfect is subjective as well. But I loved another thing which you mentioned, growth being a byproduct of your efforts. So this is the fifth point, which I actually wrote down for today, which was developing a process-oriented mindset in comparison to goal-oriented mindset. So if you have a goal-oriented mindset, your goals are 10,000 followers. That's it. I won't be happy until I hit it. Whilst with the process-oriented mindset, something which I've developed after hitting 100,000 followers, and I've been way more satisfied as a creator. I look at creating great content. I look at the fundamentals. I look at what will make me happy and what will make my audience happy. So these are the fundamentals. I know that by delivering them consistently, by communicating with my audience, these fundamentals, they will bring me forwards. That's happened in the past. And I'm focusing all of my efforts and I'm making goals on keeping my content, keeping my communications, keeping everything that makes who I am on social media consistent. So that's my goal. And then focusing on the process. So for me, this has been a life changer in business and in growing my social media presence. I'm way more satisfied. And this concept actually first came into realization from games. So at least from my research, chess was one of the games that this was implemented first. So people weren't focusing on if they were winning or losing. People were focusing on how they were playing. So they might have won a game in which they played horrendously. So they were focusing more on their performance, on what they could have improved, and they weren't satisfied with that win. Or they might have won a game, they might have lost a game in which they played to the best of their abilities, and they were satisfied because they knew that they gave their all. So this is the difference between goal and process-oriented mindset. And I believe that this is as important as any other element which breaks down growth. Heat mapping, following other people, engaging with them, all of this is good and dandy, but until you nail down your mindset, until you get rid of those toxic voices inside of your head, which are telling you this isn't worth it, don't post it. I know that you've had a couple of situations in which you thought that the post will flop and it went viral. So you have to deal with your mentality, you have to deal with your mindset as well. And this is one of the most important elements in a creator's mindset, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's so good. And I got there too. And when you get there and you just enjoy the process of creation and you enjoy creating content for your own satisfaction, and because your core audience will enjoy it and appreciate it, and you let growth be the byproduct and not the goal, social media becomes so much more fun. I was always just scrambling, trying to stay ahead on posts when I was posting consistently and I was growing so much. And for me, I let go of that at 100,000 followers. It was like when I hit 100,000, I was like, okay, you know what? I can't live like this my whole life. It's too much. What are the things that are most important to me on my social media engagement? It is I want to have a friend in every city in the world mindset. That's my thing that's most important. So what do? I reply to every DM. That's a no deal breaker. I'm going to do that every time. I'm not going to post every day. Sometimes I don't even post anymore. Even in a week, I haven't posted it, but I will reply to every DM every day, because that goal of my social media, of making these one-on-one connections and building friends all over the world, that's the whole essence of it for me. So I'm going to do that. The rest of it, if it works for me, great. If it doesn't, great. If I enjoy the process, I'm going to do it. If it feels like a task, then life's too short.
So a lot of people are trying to escape from 9 to 5, thinking that when they're their own boss, when they have everything that they ever wanted, they are going to be free. Well, isn't this the biggest misconception ever? When I was an intern, I was way freer than when I became my own boss, because then things change rapidly. So if you're pushing yourself too hard, and I know some people are taking things too easily, others are pushing themselves too hard. So it's on a spectrum. Everything which is in one end or another is dangerous. You have to find the sweet spot. So everything which I'm doing on social media is more guided towards the sustainability. I'm giving the knowledge to my audience. They can accept it, they can analyze it, and they can decide what to implement themselves. But chasing down things, being too focused on growth or not focusing on growth at all, in my perception, are extremely, extremely dangerous elements.
Yeah, it can make it not fun. And for me, social media, even educational content, let's make it fun. Let's make it enjoyable. Let's make it good quality.
Sustainable. Yeah.
And then let it be what it is. Yeah, because if it's not fun, it's not sustainable. If it's not fun, you've just created a bad job for yourself, and you're your own worst boss that you ever had. And a lot of people have done this to themselves in one state or another. It was interesting what you said too, that you were a lot freer when you were employed by somebody. And that's the entrepreneur truth, man. As an entrepreneur, this is a little tangent thing, but I'm passionate about it because I learned it in growing my agency. As an entrepreneur, you get the flexibility to choose what 60 or 80 hours a week you work. It can be 10 o'clock at night until 2 in the morning, and then your day job time as well. You can choose the flexibility. You can go to the doctor in the middle of the afternoon and not ask anybody for time off. You can take a day off and go to the beach if you choose to do that. But the work never stops. You're going to have to catch up on what you missed at some point. So you have flexibility, but you don't have freedom because it never goes away. You go to the beach for a day, and it just means that whatever you were going to have to do when you were at the beach is still there waiting for you to do afterwards. And I think social media can become this. If we treat it like a job, it can be a miserable thing for us where, oh no, I got to make my post for tomorrow. Man, life's too short. So Diana Briseno on Instagram, she posted on her stories yesterday and said, I have loved my life so much better when I let myself off the hook for making Instagram content. And then she posted in her stories shots of her going to the gym saying, I'm back working out. And then she had a shot from like last Sunday. She was like, now my Sundays I spend with my family instead of planning my content for the week. And she was just talking about letting herself off the hook for the rat race of social media growth and how much happier she is. And I got there too, not to the level of extreme that she has, but I did let myself off the hook of posting every day. I let myself off the hook of batching content for the future. One of my switches to YouTube related to getting myself out of the Instagram hamster wheel, because YouTube, I can post 2 or 3 videos a week and I'm like a rock star on YouTube, because one video a week is good on YouTube. And if I'm posting 2 or 3, that's amazing. But 2 or 3 videos on YouTube is way easier for me to produce than 6 carousel posts on Instagram. So one of my pushes was, okay, I gotta reduce my level of effort in content and post to a smarter place with a more evergreen content environment like YouTube. Yeah.
I definitely agree. And I've seen throughout my journey these past 12 months, in which I've grown from 0 to 130,000. I've seen so many more talented creators than me, but I've seen them quit. They quit too soon. They quit when they were on their peak. They burnt out. This was what was common between them. And me, on the other hand, because I was able to go more the sustainable route, yes, I was batching content, but I was making it in a way which I know from my processes in my agency was sustainable. I've gone through this. I've done this for other clients. So I knew what the dangers were, and I was taking precautions. So this, in my mind, is one of the biggest downsides of Instagram. The fact that evergreen content pretty much doesn't exist. Even if you get lucky, even if your content hits the explore page like never before, in 2 weeks, it's going to be dead. I can guarantee that.
Yeah.
And if you put too much pressure on yourself, if you don't have right processes, or even if you have the right processes, the whole idea that you are going to be doing this to the rest of your life is super, super, super hard to acknowledge. And even right now, at the place in which I am, I still think about this, and I still see this as a huge downside. That's why I invest in other platforms, because I want to have a diversified social media presence. So we talked a little bit earlier about diversifying your traffic for Instagram. This is more on the micro level. On the macro level, you need to think about your goals and how you can diversify different streams coming and helping you achieve them. So one of my goals is teaching people, building authority, being a keynote speaker, etc. So I'm building my Instagram, I'm building my LinkedIn, I'm building my email list, I'm building my Pinterest, YouTube, etc. So I'm diversifying, finding what's sustainable and what works for me, because burnout is the hardest thing to overcome. The algorithms, you can think about them, you can get on the good side of Instagram, you can create content that people like. This can be overcome. Growing slowly, you can overcome that. You can engage more, you can bring more traffic, but what's inside of your head, what's your mentality, what's your take, and how you associate Instagram is super, super hard to change. If you start hating Instagram once, going back to it would be super hard. So make sure you're
back in love with it. Very hard.
So make sure you enjoy the process in order to not burn yourself out, being mindful of what works, being mindful of what doesn't, knowing your limits and not pushing past them for too long.
Super great advice. I had to get there too in my Instagram journey. And I think Instagram is a unique platform in that rat race that I don't see any other platform seemingly require your attention nearly as much as a creator as Instagram does. Even the celebrity style Instagram accounts, the Kim Kardashians of the world, so who of course have somebody manage their account for them, but it's like daily posts or 3 day posts. Gary V is like 3 or 4 posts every day. He's just bam streaming stuff on there, but it's not him. That's the thing. If you try and keep up with Gary V and you don't have a 20-person team dedicated to your Instagram, there's no chance you're going to be able to keep up. You cannot keep up with it. So you got to know the limits, know your limits, be self-aware, know what your priorities are and what your purpose is. The why are you doing it in the first place? And you know, Harry and I both shared our why and what drives us to create and share. If you understand that and you embrace that, then let all the other stuff just happen as a byproduct of you loving the reason you do it at all in the first place.
And by the way, a great call to action might be asking people to actually leave their whys in the comment sections. I love to read every single comment that you guys leave out. And actually help you out understanding what your purpose is and seeing what the best way to actually realize it in social media is. Because I know that there are a lot of people on Instagram whose place isn't on Instagram. Just like you, Michael, have found that YouTube is the better platform for you. I know that there are a lot of creators on Instagram currently stuck in the rat race, trying to grind out something which isn't meant for them. So you might be great fit for Clubhouse, you might be great fit for Twitter, you might be great fit for YouTube. You just have to be mindful about that. So leaving your purpose in the comment section below, me reading it with Michael, we can definitely help you realize what's important for you and where you should focus.
Yeah, I love that. Great call to action. Thanks for dropping that little CTA gem at the end of this video. I appreciate it, Harry. This has been so fun. And you know what? We talked about like 2 of the things on our 8-thing list. We're going to have to do another collaboration and dig into the other 6 that we didn't hit on this one. But I think that there's some really interesting nuggets in here and hopefully some interesting paradigm shifts that people who watch this video can extract from our conversation. thank you for being on and for all of the wisdom and knowledge that you shared. At age 21, man, you blow my mind. You blow my mind because you started at age 13 being focused on things that 30-year-old people aren't focused on. And in the last 8 years of building your business at such a young age, I'm so inspired by you and by other young entrepreneurs that embrace an entrepreneurial mindset much earlier than what most people do. Man, the future is so bright for you. You probably don't even know it. Even if you think you know it, you probably don't know how bright it is for you 20 years down the road. What you're going to be doing is going to blow your mind. So kudos to you, man. Thanks for being on, and I appreciate it. Got any last little thoughts as we outro here?
Of course. So we touched upon a lot of different things inside of this conversation. It was such a pleasure speaking with you, Michael. You've been one of my heroes when I started my social media presence. You were one of the first accounts I followed. You were one of my inspirations ever since I saw the episode you did with Chris Doe. So it's been a pleasure following your journey. I know that there might be people right now watching it and feeling the same way that I did back in the day. So don't be afraid to chase your dreams. Don't be afraid to put in the work, but understand what drives you and put in focused work in the area which makes you happy. Because just as Michael said, and this has come from years of experience, life is too short. You might be in your 20s right now and you don't understand it. But the biggest gift that I have had, and the thing that has pushed me so much, was understanding that the clock is ticking and time doesn't forgive anyone. So make sure whatever you're doing is the thing that you want to be doing and fulfilling you to the rest of your life. And this is where your ikigai comes into place. This is where being mindful about yourself comes into place. So be brave enough to explore that side of yours and touch upon it in your social media journey.
Awesome. Wise beyond your years, man. That statement. Thank you for sharing. Well, thank you everybody for joining us in this video. It's been super fun to chat with Harry, and I hope you got a lot of good juicy nuggets out of it. And we will see you again sometime soon in another video. Thanks, Harry.